Greetings. Today I want to talk about Southeastern Indiana museums. My book, Southeast Indiana Day Trips, from my Road Trip Indiana series, will provide you with all of the information you need to explore these museums and in the 8 counties in the southeastern part of the state. Excuse me, 9 counties in the southeastern part of the state. The book includes much more information than I can put in these podcasts. This is the first book in the series and the only one available now. I will have the rest. There will be 9 altogether as the year progresses. With rising gas prices, many Hoosiers, including my wife and myself, are choosing to vacation closer to home. Using this podcast, I will tell you about the many places here in Indiana you can visit and have some wonderful and fun experiences. I will now tell you about each of the wonderful museums in southeastern Indiana. I have visited each of these museums, and at one of the museums I met an interesting guide. He was an older guy that gave an excellent tour. At the end of the exhibits, a display of dinosaur bones, he paused and said, "These fossilized bones are 4,039 years old." "Wow," I said I said, "how can you date them so accurately?" He scratched his head and replied, "Well, they were 4 million years old when I started working here, and that was 39 years ago." On a serious note, I believe you can learn much of a region's history by visiting its museums. Southeastern Indiana has 31 wonderful museums, each staffed by dedicated, mostly volunteer people that have a passion for their town. My goal is to take you on a short tour of these museums. The journey begins in Madison, Indiana, which was founded in 1809 and has about 1,500 historic buildings. The organization, Historic Madison, owns about 15 properties, 4 of which open to the public. Many of the others they will conduct guided tours. Perhaps the most interesting one of these is the Ben Schroeder Saddle Tree Factory Museum. John Benedict Schroeder opened his saddle tree factory around 1870. The saddle tree is the wooden foundation for a saddle and requires a high degree of skill to make. The Schroeder family made about 250 different types of saddle trees. Ben operated the factory until his death in 1909, after which his sons took over. The saddle tree market collapsed during the Great Depression, so the Schroeder family switched to making wooden clothespins, which they manufactured until 1974. When the last Schroeder died, the family transferred the property to Historic Madison. Much of the original machinery is still in operating order. The William D. Hutchings Hospital office is near downtown Madison. Native to Lexington, Kentucky, Dr. Hutchings practiced medicine in Madison from 1882 until 1903. His office became the museum that contains his medical records, equipment, and supplies, and provides a fascinating glimpse into the turn-of-the-century medicine. The Francis Costigan House on West 3rd Street is where the famous architect furthered his career. He began his architectural career in Baltimore. However, economic hard times in that city convinced him that he should move to the thriving town of Madison in 1837. He spent several years there designing many of the city's buildings, including the James Lanier Mansion, which we will visit later. He moved to Indianapolis, where he would become one of the state's leading architects. The Indiana State Museum operates the Lanier Mansion on 601 West 1st Street. Born in Washington, North Carolina, James F. D. Lanier migrated to Madison, Indiana at age 17 with his parents. Lanier became a financier and served as president of the Bank of Indiana, which he helped establish. He also ventured into the blossoming railroad industry. Known as the financial savior of Indiana, he helped reduce the state's debt to foreign financiers in 1844 when bankruptcy threatened the state due to the 1836 Massive Internal Improvements Act. He lent the state $500,000 to help it get through the financial crisis and later helped finance Indiana's role in the Civil War. Next door to the Lanier Mansion, you will find the Jefferson County Historical Society Museum. This 10,000 square foot museum allows visitors to browse and explore the region's rich history. The museum's many exhibits include riverboat models, documents, and photos. You can also browse in the restored Madison Railroad Station with its railroad memorabilia that includes a train layout showing Madison's famous incline and cut. From Madison, we travel east along the Ohio River Scenic Byway, which follows Indiana State Road 56 to the charming town of Vevey and the Switzerland County Historical Museum. Housed in the former parsonage of the adjacent 1860 Presbyterian Church, the museum displays the prominent role the Ohio River played in Switzerland County's history. The museum contains several riverboat models and stories about early Ohio River Valley residents. A beautiful flower garden separates the museum and church, which contains additional Switzerland County historical artifacts. The museum also operates the Agricultural Museum, which includes a hay press barn, Thibault House, smokehouse, granary, gardens, and an interpretive center. The 19th century farm provides visitors with time capsule of view on a farm life. Continuing east, the Ohio River Scenic Byway leaves State Road 56 to follow Indiana State Road 156 to our next destination, Rising Sun. Here we will visit the Ohio County Historical Museum. The museum's impressive collection of 19th century farm equipment interprets the agricultural heritage of the county. The myriad exhibits include a collection of riverboat models and two racing hydroplanes, the Hoosier Boy and Hoosier Girl. Local inventor and businessman John William Whitlock built these boats in the early 1900s. The Hoosier Boy holds the round-trip speed record, early 1920s. The Hoosier Boy holds the round-trip speed record of 267 minutes and 49 seconds for the round trip between Rising Sun and Cincinnati. From Rising Sun, the byway rejoins Indiana State Road 56 as it continues east towards Aurora and Lawrenceburg. On the way, you will pass the Riverview Cemetery. This is the site of Lockery's massacre. On August the 24th, 1781, a band of Shawnee Indians ambushed Colonel Archibald Lockery. He and his company had landed on the banks of the Ohio to eat a buffalo they had killed while traveling to meet George Rogers Clark. 40 of Lockery's men died in the attack, and warriors executed many others after the battle. Lockery Creek derives its name from Colonel Lockery, who died in the aftermath of the battle. Lockery's name is spelled L-O-C-H-R-Y. A government clerk misspelled the name as L-A-U-G-H-E-R-Y when they transcribed the name into the records. This name is the one that survives. The next stop is Aurora and Hill Forest Mansion. Constructed by industrialist and financier Thomas Gaff in 1855, Hill Forest Mansion sits astride a hill that affords a majestic view of the Ohio River. Thomas was native to Edinburgh, Scotland. His father, a papermaker, moved the family to Springfield, New Jersey. Gaff learned the papermaking trade from his father. An uncle, Charles Wilson, taught him the distilling business. Thomas and his brother James founded a distillery in Philadelphia. In 1843, the brothers moved their operation to Aurora. The distillery, called T&J W. Gaff Company Distillery, produced bourbon, rye, and thistledew Scotch whiskey. The business empire expanded to include the Crescent Brewing Company, a Nevada silver mine, farming operations, and many others. The Gaffs also owned a fleet of steamboats that they used to transport their products. Gaff's magnificent mansion is open to the public during scheduled hours. The next stop on the tour is the Dearborn County Historical Museum. Located in the Vance Towsey House in downtown Lawrenceburg, the Dearborn County Historical Society offers a variety of services for visitors interested in the county's rich history, including genealogical research assistance, the restored Angevine log cabin, and programs and special events. From Lawrenceburg, the tour turns north to Franklin County using Indiana State Road 1. On the way, you will find Dearborn County's only remaining covered bridge at the Guilford Covered Bridge Park. You will cross the bridge as you enter the park, where you can picnic overlooking Tanner's Creek. Our journey next takes us to Metamore and the Whitewater Canal, state historic site by way of Indiana State Road 1 and US 52. Here, the Indiana State Museum maintains an operating gristmill and canal lock. Built by Jonathan Baines in 1845, the mill has used Whitewater's current to turn the millstones. Visitors may purchase stone-ground cornmeal, watch the mill wheel turn, and visit the many shops of Metamore that are located along the canal and in the surrounding streets. From Metamore, the route turns south on State Road 229 through charming Oldenburg, the village of Spires, to Batesville. Here you can visit the Batesville Area Historical Museum and learn the story of Tunis Amick, the first recorded settler in Batesville, and on how his well helped establish the town. The museum features a mural painted by students in the 2002 Batesville High School art class and the wood basketball floor from the old high school gym. The first floor of the museum features special exhibits hosted by the museum during the year, and the upper floor displays local businesses in Batesville. The next leg of the tour takes you to Greensburg on Indiana State Road 46 and the Decatur County Historical Museum. Located in the 1850 Lathrop Shannon House, the restored house includes many artifacts, photographs, and documents chronicling Greensburg's history. The Ezra Lathrop family and descendants occupied the house until 1980, after which an anonymous donor gifted the Historical Society of Decatur County the property. From the museum, the tour passes a famous courthouse tree. First noticed in the 1870s, the tree flourished in its home 110 feet above the courthouse square. Numerous other sprigs appeared until it appeared that a small forest had developed on the courthouse tower's roof. These survived several years until finally they died. Workers removed the trees and donated it to the Decatur County Historical Society. A short time later, another tree sprouted on the roof. Then another began to grow. These two thrived and grew. Thus, trees still crown the tower of the courthouse. From Greensburg, the route turns to Osgood, Indiana on US 421 to visit the Osgood Historical Museum. The museum includes hundreds of items from Osgood's past, including Osgood's first 1886 fire engine, a 1911 Maxwell car, and the King steam car. Osgood resident Henry P. King designed and built this car in 1898. Still believed to be in operating condition, the car last ran during Vice President Nixon's visit to Columbus, Indiana in the 1960s. Our next destination is Carnegie Hall in Morris Hill, which is a few miles east of Osgood, just off Indiana State Road 350. Carnegie Hall is a distinctive structure with a unique history. The Methodist Church founded Morris Hill Male and Female Collegiate Institute in 1854, which was one of Indiana's and probably the United States' earliest colleges to admit women. After the school developed funding problems, another group purchased it and moved it to Evansville and renamed it Evansville College in 1919. This college evolved into Evansville University. The hall is open by special request currently. Next on the tour is the Sunman Historical Museum. Located in the Sunman Town Hall along State Road 101, the museum features the original 1856 plat of Sunman, the 1930s jail, and artifacts of early pioneer families. These include the Sunman family, a map showing the route taken by Indiana's 83rd Infantry Regiment from Vicksburg to Savannah, and an extensive collection of Sunman High School memorabilia. Traveling south from Sunman on State Road 101, the next destination is the Ripley 54 Museum in Milan. The museum celebrates the smallest school to win the Indiana State Basketball Championship, the 1954 Milan Indians. Here you will find a dazzling array of uniforms, photos, and documents recording the team and cheerleaders that won the state championship. The three-room museum includes the main gallery, a video room, and a smaller room in the back, all stuffed with mementos from the team. In the back room, you will find a gargantuan hand-drawn poster that has the playoff brackets that include all 750 teams that played in the 1954 state tournament. Two Purdue students assembled the poster of the tournament, painstakingly gathering the scores of every game in an age before the instant information of the internet. Also included in this museum is a glass case that features the accomplishment of another Milan resident, Cecilia Dennis, who won the Miss Indiana contest and went on to win the 1954 Miss Universe pageant. Also in one of the back rooms, there's a movie theater set up where you can watch the 1954 state championship. Rosales and Ripley County Historical Museum is the next destination on the tour. Travel down State Road 41 to US 50 and turn west to Rosales. This museum, located just off the courthouse square, includes many artifacts from Ripley County, including a wooden model of the nearby Bushing Bridge. The Ripley County Historic Society's headquarters is located in the old Ripley Bank on the square and includes a wealth of information about the county's history. The next stop is the Jennings County Museum, which is located in Indiana's smallest county seat, Vernon, located on Indiana State Road 7, just south of North Vernon, which is located on US 50. The museum includes a blacksmith shop, the Victorian pattern home, underground railroad tours, and an interesting collection of antique washing machines, as well as many artifacts from Jennings County. From Vernon, we traveled Hayden on US 50 and the Hayden Historical Museum. Turn right at the sign onto County Road 700 West. This remarkable museum includes the Edgar Whitkin Room, a 1939 kitchen, a 1965 living room, and a pre-1900 bedroom. The four rooms afford the visitor a wonderful snapshot into time. Next to the museum, you will find a faithfully restored 1950s gas station, which features the original sales counter, cash register, and pop machine. The crowning glory in the museum is in a building called A Place Called Yesterday. The museum houses a personal collection of a local Hayden resident. The collection includes dozens of antique music playing machines. A nearly complete collection of Life magazines adorns the wall, and the opposite wall displays a huge collection of record albums that covers the early age of rock and roll. The museum also owns the adjacent Indiana Governor Edgar Dowd Whitcomb's birthplace home. The staff is currently restoring the home to the way it looked on December the 24th, 1943, when Whitcomb visited his parents after being held as a prisoner of war by the Japanese during World War II. The Japanese had captured Whitcomb sometime in 1942 and held him as a prisoner of war camp on the Philippine island of Corregidor. Whitcomb and another man escaped from the camp by swimming 2 miles through a bay to the nearby Bataan Peninsula, from which American forces rescued him. The military officers forbade him from contacting his family, which had not heard from him in over a year and presumed he was dead, until they debriefed him. They took him to Washington, D.C. and spent a few days gathering information. Then they allowed him to call his parents in Hayden. When Whitcomb's mother answered the phone, she at first did not know who he was because she thought he was dead. After he convinced her it really was him, he told her he would be home on Christmas Eve. The museum hopes to recapture this moment in time. From Hayden, we continue west on US 50 to Scottsburg and the Scott County Heritage Center, which occupies the former Scott County Asylum. The facility was part of Indiana's Poor Farm system. Before welfare, unemployment insurance, and food stamps, County Poorhouse cared for mentally and physically disabled, the poor, unwed mothers, and other unfortunates that could not take care of themselves. Most counties built large, stately brick buildings to serve as local poorhouse, poor farm, or county infirmary, as the various local terms applied to them. The farm was self-sufficient, producing both food for the residents and surplus crops that the farm sold, using the proceeds to help operate the farm. Residents who were able to work outside worked in the fields. Those who were not worked inside, helping to care for the other residents. The museum includes an interesting array of artifacts, photos, and memorabilia from Scott County and preserves the story of the residents of this home. It is also said to be haunted. The last cities visited on this tour are Clarksville and Jeffersonville, located along the Ohio River. Drive south on US 31 from Scottsburg to Clarksville. The Vintage Fire Museum in Jeffersonville is the next stop. Founded in 2009, the Friends of New Albany Fire Museum Incorporated acquired the fire equipment collection gathered by Fred Conway. Fred Conway wanted to be a fireman when he was a boy. He joined the fire department and rose to become fire chief. A common problem that arose in the days before the 911 dispatch system when a fire broke out frustrated him. Since there might be 2 or 3 or more fire departments in a given area, people many times did not know which fire department to call. Frequently, they called the one that was further from the fire than another closer one. Conway came up with the idea that if people had a sticker with the correct fire department listed on it stuck to their phone, they would know which company to call. Conway's concept worked, and he started manufacturing the stickers. He sold stickers all across the United States and became quite wealthy. He began collecting vintage fire equipment, most of which forms the nucleus of this museum. Next to the Vintage Fire Museum, you will want to visit the Clark County Historical Museum. Clark County in Indiana is rich in history, and the Clark County Historical Museum endeavors to preserve this and interpret the history. At the time of the author's visit in August 2017, the museum was still in the early stages of development. However, the museum is open and well worth a visit. I haven't gone back there since this visit. We drove by there recently. It looks like it's really nice, but we didn't have time to go inside. At any rate, near these museums, you can treat yourself with a visit to Shrimp's Confectionery in Jeffersonville, a combination candy store and museum. The store opened in 1891. It is the oldest continuously operating candy store in Indiana. You can enjoy the vintage store displays, candy tins, dispensing machines, and signage. Shrimp's makes the candy they sell, providing visitors with an opportunity to watch the workers make candy. These 3 museums are all on Spring Street in Jeffersonville. Special tours are available for those that are interested at the candy store, at the confectionery. Also in Jeffersonville, you will find the Howard Steamboat Museum. The old Howard family residence, a 22-room Romanesque revival mansion, serves as the home of this museum. James Howard began his career building boats in 1834 in Jeffersonville by establishing a boatyard and constructed his first boat, the Hyperion. His company would occupy 3 generations of his family and last 107 years. He had his home constructed next to the shipyard and used the craftsmen that work on his boats to build his home in 1894. The work of these master craftsmen is evident throughout the home. The model boat collection comprises dozens of steamboats but includes many other types of historic watercraft that plied the waters of the Ohio, Mississippi, and other inland rivers of the American interior. The last stop on the tour is the Falls of the Ohio State Park, which is Indiana's smallest state park located in Clarksville. It features a huge museum that interprets the main feature of the park, the exposed fossil beds in the Ohio River. The 390 million old fossil beds at the Falls of the Ohio Park are among the largest naturally exposed Devonian fossil beds in the world. Visitors can walk over these fossil beds and ponder the creatures that once lived and left their remains here. The park includes the Clark Homesite Cabin, the site where George Rogers Clark spent his last final years. The famed Lewis and Clark expedition began here, while George Rogers Clark's brother William lived with him in the cabin. This is not the original cabin, but is a similar cabin moved to this site from Ripley County, Indiana. Find out more about these Indiana day trip destinations and many more by purchasing the book Southeast Indiana Day Trips. The book includes contact information for all of the museums, as well as information that includes state parks, nature preserves, golf courses, wineries, breweries, and much, much more. You can find it on my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com, on the Road Trip Indiana category. Just scroll down to the categories, click the Road Trip Indiana series, and voila, there it is. There are links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, and other online booksellers. You may choose to purchase the book in ebook or softbound versions. An audiobook is also available on Google Play. Listeners may also be interested in my book, The Ultimate Day Trip Travel Guide. The 747-page book includes a plethora of day trip destinations in Indiana, a complete tourism guide. The book includes local and state parks, museums, golf courses, and much more. You can also order the book direct from me, the author, on the webpage. If you wish me to sign the book, just send an email to mossyfeetbooks@gmail.com requesting a signed book and instructions on how you want me to address it. Note, if you send me an email, I will add you to my contact list. Readers on the list will receive an email from me announcing when I publish the book. If you do not want me to add you to the list, tell me and I will not add you. Listeners to this podcast that want email notifications of my releases can just send me an email requesting addition to the list. You can choose to have your name removed at any time. If you browse the website, you will find dozens of sample chapters, one for each of my books. There is also another book that you might be interested in called Exploring Indiana's Museum, which I published, I believe, last year. It includes all of the museums in Indiana that I could find. It gives you contact information and a little bit about them. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you for listening.